it's come to this. In case you don't know what's going on, I'm planning on remaking this old video with some new ideas. Also, this video will be broken down into different categories that will explain different things going on in the story. First up, the problem I had with the Sonic movies was that it felt grounded in the stakes and that it wasn't high. The closest that we got was Sonic 2 with the Death Egg robot. But here, I wanted it to reach global, so that the whole world knows about Sonic. And of course, before I ask, if you haven't watched all of these videos, I do recommend watch them because I will be bringing up some plot points. There's a playlist on my YouTube channel all about all of this, so check them out. And before I dive any further, I just want to clarify, yes, I have seen the Sonic Movie 3 trailer. I love it, it's amazing, and I just want to say that I'm not going to get anything corrected. This is my own thing, okay? So this is my own interpretation of an idea I came up with. So this has nothing to do with the official one, so I don't want anyone commenting saying, please just stop, okay? So let's get to the message of Sonic 3. So the message of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will be about loss and how it can affect some people. Some might cry, some might feel angry, and it can lead to, well, some wanting justice for it. It's a natural thing in life. We all fear loss. And I think that works well with Shadow's character. Honestly, I think that the message for it will be pretty much about how vengeance can consume people, and that they lose their way, they lose that spark of life. That spark that makes them, that makes life worth living for. We don't think about the end, we think about the time that we spent. That's the thing about life. So before I jump into this, I just want to say that Maria's death won't be shown, but it'll be mentioned in newspapers, as it'll be a major case that the world knew about in 1974, but forgot over time as the world grew. Sonic's arc in this will be wanting him to explore more of the world, without Gun hunting after him and his friends. Tom and Maddie will be concerned as Sonic is getting more cocky and, well, like the Sonic that we see in the games. So, without further ado, let's get started. After the logos, the movie would open up in space 1974, as we would see an old man rushing in his lab, collecting drawings and photos of the Master Emerald, and pictures of the markings of the temple in Siberia. Suddenly, a young girl enters the room and asks what's wrong, and why is he packing away? The doctor responds, remember what I told you. You wanted to see the world? Well, you're about to get that wish. The young girl, who is Maria, would get very excited about this. However, the moment is cut short as the alarms start to go off. And, well, scientists get captured by military men. Gerald grabs Maria and his case, and the two run towards the escape pods. However, they get ambushed by a bunch of soldiers, who point their guns at them, telling them not to move. Suddenly, they hear a noise. A black and red hedgehog bursts through as it fights off the military men. Shadow would do many poses from the Shadow the Hedgehog opening cutscene from, the game, as a nice little reference. Once Shadow is finished, the three of them reunite, with Maria hugging Shadow, telling him that he was great, and that they are going to see the planet together. Gerald would tell them that more of the men are on the way, and asks Shadow to create space path for them. Shadow would use his abilities to stop the guards and would get Maria and Gerald to the escape room, One of the officers who is leading the group informs the president that his squad has engaged Gerald, and they have him in the escape pods. Gerald would tell Shadow and Maria that he has jammed the doors, and it will buy them not a lot of time. Just then, the leader appears with 5 other officers who barricade the door, trying to break it open. Maria sees them breaking through. Maria then asks Shadow to stand over behind her. Shadow complies, but Maria pulls the switch, trapping Shadow in a pod. The door then breaks on through, and the officers pin Gerald to the ground. One of the officers tells Maria to step away from the freak. Maria refuses, calling Shadow not a freak, and that he is a friend, before saying sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow would call out for Maria not to do this, before she pulls the switch as Shadow screams for Maria, and as the pod heads to Earth. Cue the title screen. It would then cut 50 years to the city of Tokyo, as a group of robbers in a helicopter, a GUN helicopter, are flying away with a bunch of stolen Robotnik technology, with gun helicopters following after them. The group uses some of the egg drones to destroy the rotors, as the pilots jump out the helicopters and land in the water. As the helicopter passes by, we would see Sonic jumping out of a sewer with a communication device on his ear. He would then put in an Apple EarPod and would pull out his playlist on his phone and would hit one of the songs, Kickstart My Heart. As he charges up, Sonic would run the streets at top speed, doing many poses and tricks on the way. Before seeing the helicopter, Sonic runs up the building before jumping off over the rotors of the helicopter, before kicking a few robbers out down below into the ocean. Some of the robbers point their weapons at Sonic and are about to fire until Tails comes in, flying in his tailspin attack from the games. He would use some of his gadgets to get the criminals off the helicopter. However, the biggest one would be a person called the Leader. He pulls up much of a fight as he puts on a speed suit powered by some of Sonic's Quill energy, which Sonic struggles to beat in a fight. However, Tails notices they're going to crash into a building, and the Fox tries his best to take control of the helicopter. The Leader thinks he's won. Just as he's about to defeat Sonic and Tails, Knuckles comes gliding in wearing his OVA hat, a nice reference to the Knuckles show. Unfortunately, the group's fight, this Leader man, who tries after his suit breaks, sees the helicopter and tries to escape. But Knuckles grabs the tail of the helicopter, and the pressure of the engine ends up malfunctioning. The helicopter slowly begins to fall down below, where people are. Luckily, with the help of Sonic, who moves the people out of the way just in time, Tails then throws some gadgets down below, which slows the impact of the helicopter. And Knuckles, pulling back on the helicopter to make sure to save the people. As they look around, many of the people seem scared of them, some even calling them freaks. However, Tails points out the gun is coming, so he presses a button on his Mars Electric, and the 3 of them head off, flying in Tails' new tornado plane, the Cyclone. As Gun arrives on the scene, they see all the destruction caused by Sonic, but one soldier notices the plane flying towards a ring portal. The soldier then takes off his mask, revealing it to be Agent Stone, who looks on in anger, but he puts his mask back on to keep up with his act. The next day, a paper lands on Tom and Maddie's door saying 50 years disappearance of Maria Kintobor. Then it would show Tom, Maddie, Sonic, Tails and Knuckles are sitting down to have dinner and are bonding as a family, joking and, well, just telling each other about their day. However, the dinner is cut short when on the news, a man, who by the way is Jeff Fowler, mentions on the news about 3 alien freaks and warns people about them, saying that they're overpowered, they caused collateral damage, and they can't be trusted. While everyone seems to be questioning this, Sonic seemingly takes this to heart, and Tom decides to have a chat with him in his car. Sonic would mention how he would want to see the world, but he's being hunted by Gunn. They're essentially prisoners inside Green Hills. But Tom reminds him that, well, yes, that might be the case. The government are just doing their jobs, and that they are also taking care of them so that they don't run off. But Sonic argues that he's seen all of Green Hills, and he wants to see something new, to see the world, and he's out of warp rings, so he can't go anywhere. Tom continues, Tom understands. And later on he talks with Maddie, as the two know Sonic and his friends are growing up quickly. Surprisingly a little different than regular children, in the responsibility that they have been given. But they should be allowed to see the world. The story would then cut to Stone, driving up to an abandoned junkyard. As he's about to walk inside, he heads to the shed and it lets him in. He then takes the elevator down to a lab. Stone finds the lab and the lights turned off, and the badniks at work. As Stone calls out, "Doctor?" he steps on a food can and sees that there are hundreds. Fast food boxes, pizza boxes, wrappers, hundreds of it. Suddenly Robotnik emerges out of his chair, claiming to have been skipping leg day, now fully fat. Which Stone is immediately shocked at. And, well, Robotnik says that he has hated the sunlight, as it reminds him of his failure to take over the planet, and the ray of sunshine of the hedgehog, who represents every pain of what he went through. Robotnik then turns his gaze and asks Stone, to which he hands him the paper of the day, which has pictures of Sonic on it. Robotnik then cuts out the pictures of Sonic and puts them on, well, a dartboard. Stone would then mention that there was a meeting with Walters coming up, and it's about the location discussing something buried deep 50 years within the government's files. Robotnik asks what is it, to which Stone states not much is known about it, besides its name, Project Shadow. Robotnik would then give Stone a couple of warp rings and tells him to return to Gunn, with Robotnik watching through the body cam. Just as he leaves, Stone notices something covered up with a metal sheet, a doorway with a code. As he begins to go towards it, Robotnik stops him, telling him that that's not important. Stone obliges and he heads off. Tom and Maddie talk with Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, and they tell them that they have decided to take Sonic, Tails and Knuckles to their anniversary meal in a restaurant in London. The meal place is called Chow Garden, as a nice little reference to Sonic Adventure. Meanwhile, at the GUN main headquarters, Commander Walters is busy talking to the rest of the other higher-ups of GUN. He tells them that, luckily, thanks to his new recruit, his new director, that named Rockwell, she was able to not only find where Project Shadow is, which the others are a bit confused, as the location is Mount Everest, as there was a secret facility built there a very long time ago in the 1970s. Apparently, whoever was creating Shadow the Hedgehog really wanted him off, really wanted to hide this. When the rest of the members ask how is Walters going to handle this situation, as simply just locking up the facility and oversighting it won't be enough. What if Shadow awakens and perhaps causes some collateral damage? Walters is aware of this and takes up a full-on task force. He takes up an army of military people, including some GUN officers and rookies, to help guard the situation, to stop anything from coming in or out, so that Shadow will never escape. In Mount Everest, we see a helicopter pass by as it lands down below in the abandoned facility. As the helicopter lands, we would see a bunch of soldiers walk outside, as well as Walters. Walters heads towards one of the doors. As it opens, a woman in a military outfit walks on forward. She is revealed to be Director Rockwell. She would then tell the rookies that this is their first day and that not to mess up anything. What they're guarding is top secret. They are not allowed to share this with anyone. And then she passes the mic over to Walters. Walters would thank her and would proceed to say that it's top secret that they protect this and don't let it out. Each of the gun troopers have given their roles. As they're watching over Shadow, Agent Stone is in charge of the engines, and he ends up calling Robotnik when no one's looking. He informs Robotnik that he is held in Mount Everest and asks what does he do, to which Robotnik tells him to check his pockets. Stone pulls out Sonic's quill, and instantly Robotnik tells him to put it in the engine to power it up, and that he will be there very shortly to distract the guards. Stone obliges by this, and he decides to head on down to check the area. One of the gun soldiers stops him, telling him that there's something going on and that he can't go forward. Where's his identification? To which Stone tells him that this was an order given to him by Commander Walters, and the gun soldier lets him pass. He begins looking over the project and slowly gives the quill a bit of energy. This ends up causing the chamber to melt down, and an alert system goes on board. As Walters and Rockwell look around, they're wondering what on earth is going on. Suddenly, out of the blue, one of the gun soldiers reports to Walters saying that they've spotted Robotnik and a bunch of drones outside, to which Walters puts together that he is after Shadow. He tells everyone to go outside and defend, and that the rest of them to stay behind and stop what's going on with Project Shadow. However, they're too late, as Shadow breaks open the glass doors and stands above it all, looking menacingly. Rockwell tells Shadow to stand down. Shadow doesn't say anything before teleporting away behind and then destroying the gun guards completely, annihilating them, punching them using his powers. Rockwell tries to fire, but Shadow stuns her, sending her into a wall. Shadow would then blast on through, dashing towards, destroying all of the gun reprogrammed badniks. Walters, of course, would help up Rockwell, and the two of them would head towards the escape area to get to the helicopter. And as they fly away from there, as they try to get to the helicopter, they end up somehow getting stopped by Shadow. With, of course, Shadow fighting off Rockwell, hitting her against the wall, and Robotnik firing drones down below on everything in sight. Stone ends up somehow surviving and decides to play it cool. However, as Shadow is about to literally walk away, he of course notes Walters points a gun at him, telling him not to make any moves. Shadow doesn't seem to really care, and throws a spear hitting Walters' eye. This causes him to fall to the ground as Shadow teleports away, and Robotnik seemingly retreats through a ring portal, and Shadow surprisingly sees the portal and jumps towards it. When Rockwell helps up Walters out, he notices his eye colour has been changed to a different colour. Walters then orders all GUN agents, ones who are off sick, ones who are resting, to stop at nothing but to get Shadow back. That this is an urgent level threat. They need every agent on the job. They need to stop Shadow. Walters would then get a call. As he answers it, he finds out the location of Shadow. He is in London. Walters would then say, "Everyone move to London." As everyone all packs up, and then some of the other gun guards stay behind to see if they can find any other information in the base.
Then cut to London as Tom and Maddie, along with Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, are trying to get into a restaurant. However, they don't allow pets or children, to be precise. They act all really disappointed that they can't get in and that the night's really turning into a bummer. As Sonic, Tails and Knuckles do feel bad that they ended up, kind of ruining Tom and Maddie's wedding anniversary. However, Sonic would then hear some explosions and would race over to see what's going on, only to be greeted by a bunch of egg drones looking down towards him. Along with that, Tails and Knuckles would look to the side, and they will all know on who it is, after hearing a sinister laugh. They would then see buzz bombers all around, everywhere. And along with that, these massive and smaller crab meats, which seem to be all new for Sonic since he hasn't fought them yet. As Sonic comments, "That's new." With Knuckles all ready to be charged up while holding the Master Emerald, all ready. However, an Eggmobile comes down below, and it's Robotnik. So Tails is surprised that Eggman is still alive, to which Sonic says isn't. He knows Eggman's a lot smarter than, he seems. Tom and Maddie jokingly mock on how much Robotnik has exactly constantly annoyed them, and Robotnik rolls his eyes. He then demands them to give him the Master Emerald. Knuckles refuses to give him what he wants, saying that he'll have to go through all of them to get the Emerald. Sonic would then kind of look in shock at Robotnik, immediately mocking the fact that he's now overweight, claiming that, "Robotnik, you really let yourself go following that defeat. I guess defeat wasn't one thing." Robotnik wouldn't exactly take this well, as Robotnik said he needed a little bit of time to plan and to rethink, to restructure. Knuckles would look up in anger towards Robotnik, ready to charge it out, but Sonic tells him to stop. But Robotnik tells him, listen to your friend, you idiot. Knuckles would then get super angry and they charge up ready to attack and punch. However, Tom and Maddie tell Robotnik that they'll just call the police because of this, but Robotnik hacks their phones from his Eggmobile. And then he says, "Thank you, Bluetooth Wireless. What I could do without you." Sonic would then state that he's had enough, and it's time to battle Robotnik. Or, well, he calls him Fatty Robotnik, which Robotnik immediately does not like. He then immediately says, "These childish games are a waste of my time. Let's finish this, Hedgehog. Time to end this once and for all." As Robotnik gets armored up with his Eggmobile, he presses a button on his, computer. Tails would help out Sonic get to Robotnik's Eggmobile as he's about to fire missiles at the team. Luckily, Sonic jumps up, asking Robotnik why is he here, to which Robotnik says, "Oh, he's here for a simple jog out with his badniks to enjoy the night." Just then the Motobugs come in and are about to attack the heroes. Sonic draws them away and ends up running across London with all the other badniks following him. Well, the Motobugs following him. Whereas the remaining other badniks stay behind to face off against Tails and Knuckles. Robotnik, in this, decides it's time to get revenge on the fox who tricked him into losing the Master Emerald. Tails says that he's not afraid of Robotnik, and that he'll be prepared. And Robotnik states, well, he should be. Before immediately summoning he chases after Tails, firing missiles and all sorts. Tails avoids Robotnik's gauge and manages to throw a device on Robotnik's Eggmobile which causes it to malfunction and Robotnik loses control of it. Meanwhile, a massive crab mech, which is huge, faces off between Knuckles the Echidna. Knuckles looks at it in shock, or in a kind of surprised look. Thinking not of it much as a challenge, the crab smacks Knuckles to the side into a building. Knuckles would then jump upwards, punching it on the top, realizing that its metal steel is hard to break through. It seems Robotnik has learned from his errors in making these, from what resources he has. However, the crab hits Knuckles again. This time, Knuckles decides to summon the Flames of Disaster, and quickly obliterates the living hell out of the crab mech, completely destroying, taking off its legs and slamming them into the eye, blinding it, and then picking it up and tossing it into the air, causing it to fall down on a bunch of other badniks, most notably being the infamous Buzz Bombers. Knuckles would then stand victoriously, chanting out that he's won. The Buzz Bombers then decide the remaining Buzz Bombers chase Tails throughout the city. Luckily, the young fox has a plan of his own. He averts them into what seemingly is, a dump and, destroys them. Robotnik is annoyed that his badniks are being destroyed, and is unbelievably angered by all of this, calling out that he'll make stronger robots once his plan is fully complete. Meanwhile, with the Hedgehog, the Motobugs begin to chase him, following him even more throughout the city. Sonic manages to lose half of them by kicking them off Tower Bridge. Luckily, that all goes very well, and Sonic decides to confront Robotnik, finally. Robotnik is prepared to attack. Sonic asks him one thing before they clash. Why now? Why does he come out of hiding now? Robotnik states that he's got a new plan in the works. One that will make him realize. It will make him understand more. And soon the name Ivo Robotnik will be seen across the world, heard menacingly. And not only that, but the hedgehog will fall to him. Robotnik would then summon all of his weapons and would charge towards Sonic, battling him out as Sonic clashes on the side, avoiding Robotnik's missiles and all sorts of attacks. Sonic would spin dash into Robotnik's Eggmobile, but Robotnik has made some upgrades, including some shields, allowing it not to be dented by Sonic. With Robotnik immediately mocking Sonic, telling him that, "I've made some upgrades myself, Hedgehog. You're not the only one to do that." Before gloating as usual. However, Robotnik then immediately gets a message from Agent Stone, telling him to get out of there, as he's coming. Stone asks who, and then realizes, and Robotnik retreats. The group are wondering, why on earth is Robotnik retreating? But then they suddenly see a bike driving down the street as it explodes into what seemingly is a gas truck. Sonic tells Knuckles look on to see what is there, only to realize that someone is there. Shadow is there. Sonic is surprised seeing another hedgehog for the first time. You're another hedgehog? Whoa. You're a colourful bunch, Shadow says, before he notices the Master Emerald. Shadow would ask about the Master Emerald and wants it. Sonic is confused and tells him that it's dangerous and that its power is complete, that they're the guardians of it. Knuckles says that he wants first dibs at Shadow and wants to punch the living hell out of him. But Sonic tells him that they need to work as a team on this since Sonic doesn't trust this new person, thinks he could be dangerous. But of course Knuckles doesn't listen and charges towards him. But unfortunately, Shadow teleports in front of Knuckles, which catches the Echidna off guard, grabbing his fist, and, well, Knuckles is shocked at this, and in other parts, he's ended up tossed up into the air. Sonic is even more surprised, but he decides to go along and try and fight Shadow. Shadow kicks Tails to the side, before grabbing Sonic by the throat, and slamming him to the ground. Shadow looks around, saying that there's nothing around that can stop him. Tom and Maddie decide to distract Shadow by throwing a rock at him. Shadow turns around slowly towards them, ready to charge them up with a full-on energy. However, the ground begins to rumble as Knuckles' flaming fists come firing up and punch Shadow up into the air, with Knuckles claiming that victory is his. As he does this, Shadow spin dashes into Knuckles, causing him to be knocked out from the blast. Shadow would get up really annoyed and angered. He would then pick up Tails and throw him at Knuckles, in fact using him as a literal weapon, before calling Tails and Knuckles worthless and annoying pests. Suddenly Sonic emerges out and spin dashes into Shadow, catching him off guard and throwing him into a building. Sonic declares at Shadow. He then talks, saying that he'll handle this person, whatever his name is. Shadow would then speak. My name is Shadow. Shadow the Hedgehog. Before ultimately teleporting away with the Master Emerald. Sonic would tell them that he would go and rescue the Master Emerald and bring it back. Luckily, he dashes on forward and finds out where on earth Shadow is. However, one thing Sonic didn't account for, Shadow has, well, now got a new bike, this being an official GUN bike, and is driving on fast with the Master Emerald. Shadow would teleport to the top of the shard, driving all the way up with Sonic running all the way up as well. Shadow would then skid on the side, and not only that, he would fly up into the air with his bike, and would leap off of it in the air. Sonic would charge up, all ready in a battle to clash it all out, ready it all. As Sonic and Shadow clash into the sky, fighting it out, causing an awesome battle going on. This ends up causing a power outage in London, unfortunately. As Sonic and Shadow fall to the ground, they completely are free-falling fighting, kicking, punching and doing all sorts of stuff. Sonic would grab Shadow and throw him to the side, but Shadow would use his hover boots to kick Sonic against another building. Shadow would even grab Sonic and try and use him to slam into the sides of glass buildings. But Shadow would use the Master Emerald and harness its power. He then would close his eyes. However, just before he says Chaos Control, Sonic jumps onto him, and Shadow teleports back to the bit with Sonic and, well, Tails and Knuckles. Shadow is surprised that he's brought him back here with, well, everyone else. And just as when he's about to finish him off, he then hears sirens in the background. Shadow drops Sonic and immediately teleports away, without picking up the Master Emerald. Tom and Maddie are wondering why on earth did Shadow leave? But then, immediately they start to wonder why, as GUN troops start arriving. And, well, the family begins to worry when the guns start pointing towards them. The troopers tell them to stand down, as they said to put their hands up. The family all becomes incredibly worried. Just then a helicopter is seen showing a searchlight above as it lands down below. Walters and Rockwell walk out, with Walters declaring to find Project Shadow. Before then, the two then notice that the Wachowskis are there. When realizing that they have Sonic, Tails and Knuckles with them, Walters figures something out. He then asks the Wachowskis about a black hedgehog. Then Tom and Maddie would say that they've seen him, and Walters would decide to arrest them, thinking that they're holding him hostage, holding him in protecting him, kind of like with Sonic and Tails. He also claims that, well, they did essentially bring Sonic and Tails and Knuckles out of their enclosed area, so they're going to have to take them in as well. They've broken their agreement, and now it's time to go. As they bring out the cages ready to put them in, Tom and Maddie would jump in front of Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, telling them to get out of here if possible. Sonic, Tails and Knuckles would run with the emeralds. Walters would sigh at this, before telling Director Rockwell to go get the animals. Rockwell agrees, and Walters tells his men to arrest Tom and Maddie. However, he tells them not to arrest Maddie, and that to keep her away from her husband, as he's more involved with the animals than she is. Sonic, Tails and Knuckles head to a park far beyond any of it. They begin to discuss potential ideas that they could do, such as many different ideas. The idea of going back to Green Hills is out limits, as Walters, as GUN, will also have that place under lockdown now. Knuckles brings up the idea that they should go to a different world in order to regroup. Sonic is against this idea as he doesn't want to leave Tom and Maddie, but they say that they can help them once they regroup and regain their strength. Plus, they'd be protecting the Master Emerald from Shadow. And Robotnik, because he's back now. Tails is optimistic about this and brings out a warp ring, stating he's been saving this one for a while. So, they throw the warp ring to a different place, as Tails knows someone who can help them. As they're ending up helping out quite a bit, they end up going towards the portal. However, GUN forces close on in to Knuckles. Knuckles tells them to go, but Tails and Sonic ask if Knuckles is coming with them, to which Knuckles tells them to just go through the portal, he will be right behind them. The gun soldiers surround Knuckles, ready to tackle him on, as Knuckles fights off the gun soldiers, throwing them against trees, punching them into the ground, throwing benches at them, even picking up tree stumps. Knuckles is prepared to fight them out, charging up his energy, ready to clash with them, as he's punching them against walls, kicking up tables, throwing them. However, they begin to pull out tranquilizer darts and start firing them at Knuckles. Knuckles becomes a bit dizzy from the events, but still continues to fight on with all of his strength, no matter what's going on. He picks them up and slams them to the ground, using all of his brute strength. However, more darts are fired at him, which makes it harder and harder for none other than Knuckles to continue. But he charges up his fists, ready to fight off all of the guards at once, claiming that they are all ants to him. Ants that he will squash. However, Rockwell walks in and immediately shoots Knuckles with the last tranquilizer dart that causes him to faint to the ground. Rockwell would look down at Knuckles in a bit of disgust at him, calling him a freak. However, one of the rookies starts kicking Knuckles to see if he's alright, but he does it a bit extreme, and Rockwell tells him that's enough. The lab doesn't want this one hurt. She then picks up the Master Emerald. She informs Walters that they have the Emerald. Everything is all good. But they lost the other two. Tom is arrested for his crimes by none other than Randall, who's been promoted to captain. Walters is very disappointed in Tom and tells him that he'll be going to a prison, be taken to a specialised GUN prison, as he might know more information about where Shadow might be. Tom denies this, but Walters doesn't care. He tells him that he's lying, just like with Sonic and Tails. Just then, Rockwell walks in. She says that she has the echidna, but she lost the hedgehog and the fox. Walters is a bit annoyed, but he is glad that they managed to get the power source that Robotnik used for that robot thing. As the two begin to continue talking, they decide an idea to take Tom back to the secret GUN lab. Rockwell agrees and decides to lock up all the other different things going on. She would tell that she would be able to find information out of him. And ultimately, Walters would praise Rockwell for her work. She then would grab the unconscious Knuckles and put him into a specialised cage, which Knuckles can't break out of. Tom would be really annoyed as he's put into a back of a car with Randall in there, telling him it's not worth resisting, trust me. As Knuckles and Tom are taken away, Walters tells the crew that to take Maddie back to Green Hills and to not let her leave. Meanwhile, Shadow is watching from above as the vehicles drive off. He then would immediately close his eyes, hearing the echoes of a familiar voice of his past, after when he sees a little girl and what seems to be a little girl and her father. This kind of reminds Shadow of his time with Maria, and how their friendship was very sweet, surprisingly, and all the times that they spent together. And this was right before Shadow got his chaotic power, his chaos control power. When Shadow opens his eyes, he finds himself surrounded by a bunch of egg drones, calling it coincidence. Robotnik then flies in on his Eggmobile, telling Shadow that he is one lucky hedgehog to find, and that, together, they could be unstoppable. Shadow asks him who is he, to which he says his name is Ivor Robotnik. To which Shadow immediately is surprised. Like, Professor Robotnik? Being shocked after all these years. But Robotnik tells him that it was actually him who set him free. Shadow tells him that he should be grateful for him, so he will help him with one task, name it. Robotnik simply states that he has a world that he wishes to conquer, a blue hedgehog to kill, and ultimately, Shadow agrees. And instead, he takes him to a very special location. Robotnik tosses Shadow a warp ring and shows him how to use them. Shadow would ultimately throw the warp ring, as it would not only land, it would open up a portal leading to an abandoned laboratory. Robotnik steps on in, along with some of his other badniks, ultimately declaring it a junk heap, kicking around some of the other sort of stuff. As he sees old drawings, old things all around, and prototype stuff everywhere, including all this empty material stuff. He then immediately, Shadow enters in and states that he is here. Professor, I am here. I brought a guest. Out of the shadows, a mysterious voice is heard, which catches Robotnik off guard. Welcome home, my boy. Robotnik immediately is in shock. But that's impossible. It can't be. Is it now? Gerald would speak. Say it. Robotnik is now in complete shock. Grandfather? Is that really you? In the saggy flesh, my boy. Robotnik would then hug his grandfather, stating that he thought he was dead after all these years. But Gerald would declare something, stating that it's a lot harder to kill a cockroach, now is it? We have a lot of catching up to do, Ivo. My oh my, what fun we'll have together.